Good evening, Advanced Math. We're going to work tonight on comparing and ordering negative numbers. Remember in math when we talk about comparing, we're talking about, greater, less than, and equal to. So write that as your next page, and then think through. I'm going to show you three different situations with the I do, all pretty quick, and then we'll have three different ones with the we do, again, all pretty quick. So leave your space for three after your title. All right. So this was your, I want to say, illustrating math question not long ago. We talked about it being negative 28 degrees in Anchorage and 65 in Miami. And it's easy to tell, with positive and negative numbers, easy to tell which city had the greater temperature. But when I just wanted to give you one you've worked on. Negative 28 is going to be somewhere over here. And positive, so that would mean positive 28 would be here. And so positive 65 would be like way over here. And obviously it's much warmer when it's positive 65 than negative 28. And so then I want to kind of talk about some situations where they're both negative and just make sure nothing trips you up today. So let's see. So I feel like problems where you're comparing or ordering negative numbers are easiest in a real situation. It's like if we do a coldest to warmest. If you think about temperature, this is easier than if you think just about numbers. So I've got these four temperatures on a cold day. Negative 13 degrees in Portland, Maine. Negative 3 degrees in Detroit, Michigan. 15 degrees in Toledo, Ohio. And 3 degrees in Omaha, Nebraska. So, excuse me. Excuse me again. The easiest way to make sure you don't make a mistake is this. On a number line, greater numbers have always been to the right, and lesser numbers have always been to the left. And that still holds true with negatives. I'm going to put my 0 in here. And if I put in some temperatures here, like 5, 10, 15 that are positive, and then negative 5, negative 10, negative 15 that are negative, I'm going to put each city on this number line, and then it's going to be easy to tell because I can just go from left to right. So Portland, Maine, negative 13 degrees, negative 5, 10. So negative 13 is going to be about here. Put P for Portland. Negative 3 is between 0 and negative 5. It's about here. Detroit. Omaha, positive 3. That's about here. And Toledo, Ohio, 15 degrees is way over here. And when I look now, I can see very easily the coldest city was obviously the one that's the most negative. And so that's going to be first coldest. My next coldest was Detroit at negative 3. My next coldest was Omaha at positive 3, and my warmest is Toledo at 15. The only thing that if you don't pay a lot of attention, the number line makes this kind of foolproof. It could be easy to make the mistake that negative 13 is greater than 3 because it's kind of a bigger number. And the number line helps make sure you remember, that's not really true because even though it's a bigger number, it's negative, so it's farther to the left. It's actually the coldest. The most negative makes it the coldest. So in situations like that, I feel like those are pretty easy. When there's not a situation, when it's just here's two numbers, which one's greater and which one's less, I feel like somehow that makes it a little harder, a little more abstract. So like when I look at these, the first thing I might do is say, well, to figure out which one's greater, think about temperatures. If this was negative 1/2 of a degree and negative 7 degrees, that might help you say, well, obviously this is colder and this is warmer. And so you might just be able to say right off the bat, I know that this is more negative, so it's more cold, so it's a lower number. If not, you just need a number line. And again, it's always easy to tell on a number line what's going on. -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7. And if I put both of these points on the number line, -7's here, -1/2 is here, and very easy to tell. Remember, greater numbers are to the right, and lesser numbers are to the left. And you can tell easily -1/2 is greater because it's to the right. So like the bigger a negative number becomes, the less value it actually has. All right. And third situation is to order numbers from least to greatest. This is just like doing the temperature, but they aren't temperatures, right? So I've got 4 numbers to put in order: -6.5, 2/5, -2 1/3, and -4. Again, for me, if I just make up a situation, it's easier for me to go least to greatest if I think, well, what if these were temperatures? I would say, then I can tell quickly this may not work for you. This would be the coldest. -6 is the coldest. This is going to be second. -4. The closer towards 0 I get with the negatives, the warmer I get. And then this one's above 0, so it's fourth. So if I think temperatures, it makes a lot of sense to me to order these. If that doesn't make a lot of sense to you, number line will never let you down on a question like this. They always help you put stuff in the right order. So -6.5 is -6 and then another half. So between -6 and -7, it's right there. Make that red. Positive 2/5. That's more than 0 but less than 1. It's about right there. -2 1/3. I'm going to go back. -1, -2 1/3, about right there if I partition that into thirds. -2 1/3 right there. And -4 is right there. And now I can just go left to right and say, well, the lowest is the red. Then the next lowest is the pink. And the next lowest is the green. And the greatest is the orange. All right, so I've number line, and then you can always just go left to right. All right, let's do a few together. So I'll start with a situation one. I feel like when they're a situation, it's extremely easy to tell. So here's one where there's a real situation. It says here's 4 states and the lowest elevation from sea level in the whole state. So in Arkansas, the lowest spot in Arkansas is 55 feet above sea level. In California, it's -282 feet above sea level, which means it's 282 feet below. Louisiana, it's 8 feet below. Texas, 2 feet below. So I want this one, notice, tricky wording, descending order. That is like, descend is like when you descend the stairs, you go down the stairs. So this actually means greatest to least. Or in this case, highest to lowest. So obviously if I'm thinking about altitude, my highest one is going to be the one that's above sea level. If I were to make my number line, 55 feet above sea level is going to be the highest. That's because it's the only one that's above. And then the next 3, the -2 is going to be really close to 0. The -8 is going to be a little farther from 0. And the -282 is going to be here. So I think if there's going to be something that tricks you here is just to forget the negative. A big negative number is really low. I'm just thinking, oh, well, that's 282, so it's got to be the greatest because it has the biggest number in it. And it doesn't work that way once you get with negatives. So if I'm going to go from greatest to least here, now I'm going the other way. Greatest is over here. Least is over here. So 55 is the highest. Negative 2 is the next lowest. It's like a little below. Then this is the next lowest. It's a little farther below. And then this is like way below sea level. So this is the lowest. And this is the highest. All right. So again, in a situation, I have a really easy time telling greatest and least, highest and lowest. When I just get problems with two numbers in them, with no situation, it can be a little harder to tell. So I'm going to look at these, negative 2 and 4 tenths versus negative 6 and 93 hundredths. When they're just two numbers, I like to add a situation, and I like to think temperature. So if I think temperature, negative 6 is colder than, this is about negative 6, and this is about negative 2. And so to me, if negative 6 is colder than negative 2, then I know negative 6 is less than negative 2. Or in this case, negative 6 and 93 hundredths is less than negative 2 and 4 tenths. And so if I just think temperature, it's obvious to me. If that doesn't help make it obvious to you, a number line should. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, and negative 7. So this one, negative 6 and 93 hundredths, that's almost negative 7. Negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost 7. That's here. And then negative 2 and 4 tenths, that's a little more, that's about negative 2 and a half. So it's about right there. Obviously, this is less, and this is greater. So I would say this is the greater number right here. So even though it's negative, it's greater. And again, just because this is looks like a bigger number, since it's negative, that just makes it an even lower number, which is weird. But does make sense, like again, if you think temperature or altitude. All right. And last but not least, order these from least to greatest. Same thing, but we're doing it with 4 numbers at the same time. Again, if you think temperature, this might help, right? The coldest temperature would be negative 4. The warmest temperature would be the only one above 0. So if you think temperature, that will probably help you do it. I have an easy time ordering them if I think temperature. But if not, number line's your best way. So I only have to really go up to 1 and back to about negative 5. All right, so I'm going to have negative 4 and a half, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 4 and a half is there. 1/3 is there. Negative 2 and 4/5. So I'm going to go between negative 2 and 3. I'm going to partition into fifths. And negative 2 and 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5. And negative 1 is right there. And so I can see from least to greatest there, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or negative 4 and a half, then negative 2 and 4/5, then negative 1, then the third. And just like you would think with temperature, right? Cold, little warmer, little warmer, little warmer. All right. So that's how you compare and order negative numbers. Hope that made a lot of sense to you. If you need to go back and watch any examples again to make a little more sense of it, please do. Otherwise, see you tomorrow.